Hey everyone. Today we're going to dive into a really fascinating political story. It's called Neoconservatism, and it's all about how a group of thinkers took this wild journey from one side of the political map all the way to the other. So let's jump right in.
So have you ever heard the term neocon before? It gets thrown around in the news or on social media all the time, right? But what does it actually mean? Well, it's one of those words where the real story is way more interesting and honestly kind of surprising than you'd think. We're going to unpack it.
Okay, so to really get what neoconservatism is all about, we've got to hop in our time machine. And believe it or not, our story doesn't start in Washington, D.C. with all the politicians. Nope, it starts in New York City, way back in the 1930s.
So who were these first neocons? Well, they were this group of thinkers. A lot of them were Jewish scholars and activists known as the New York intellectuals. And here is the big twist, the thing you have to remember. They started out on the political left. I'm talking Democrats. Some were even part of the Socialist Party. But there was one huge thing that made them different from a lot of others on the left at the time. They were absolutely, fiercely anti-communist, and they could not stand the Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin.
So just to picture this, right? If you look at a classic political spectrum, these folks started their journey way over here on the left side. This was their home base, and you really got to lock that in, because their whole story is about the wild ride from this starting point all the way over to the other side. Okay, so if they started out on the left, what on earth happened? How did they end up somewhere else? Well, a massive cultural and political earthquake was about to hit America, and it caused this huge disagreement that honestly changed everything for them. That earthquake was the 1960s. I mean, what a decade, right? This was a massive turning point in American history. You had this huge social upheaval. I'm talking the civil rights movement fighting for racial equality, enormous protests against the Vietnam War, the rise of the women's rights movement. The entire country was changing, and it was changing fast.
And out of all this change, a new movement popped up called the New Left. Now, this was a whole new, younger generation of activists. They had a different vibe. They were often really critical of America's role in the world, they were super anti-war, and they started pulling the Democratic Party further and further to the left. For those original thinkers we talked about, it felt like their own party was leaving them behind. They thought it was getting way too radical, and really importantly, way too soft on their number one enemy, the Soviet Union.
So you can actually map out their whole journey over a few decades. Look at this. From the 30s to the 50s, they're on the left, but they're anti-Stalin. Then the 60s hit, and they get really disenchanted with that new left movement. By the 70s, they're starting to actually break away from the Democrats. And then, in the 80s, boom, they find a new home in the Republican Party, especially with President Ronald Reagan, because he shared that super tough anti-Soviet Union worldview.
Okay, so that's the origin story. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty. What do neoconservatives actually believe? Their whole ideology is basically built on two main pillars. Let's tackle the first one, which is probably the most famous. It's all about foreign policy, America's role in the world.
At its core, neoconservative foreign policy says this: America has to be a powerful, leading force on the world stage. That's non-negotiable. To do that, you need an incredibly strong military, and you need to encourage patriotism at home. They believe the US has interests all over the globe, and it even has a duty to spread its values, like democracy. And here's the really crucial part. They believe this can, and sometimes should, be done by any means necessary, and that includes using military force.
And this is where things get kind of tricky, and this meme nails it. There's this central tension or contradiction, right? On one hand, a lot of conservatives want a small government that just stays out of their lives, less taxes, less rules. But on the other hand, the kind of foreign policy we just talked about requires a huge, active, and really powerful government to act like the world's policeman. See the conflict? Small government at home, but a massive government presence abroad. It's a really interesting puzzle at the heart of the ideology.
All right, Pillar 1 was foreign policy. Now for Pillar 2. This one is all about economics. And just like with their views on the world, their economic ideas were a complete break from where they started on the left.
So, to really get their economic thinking, you have to know about this guy, Milton Friedman. He was a hugely influential economist, basically a rock star for many conservatives. His big idea was all about free markets, and he argued that the government should interfere with the economy as little as humanly possible.
And this quote right here, it pretty much sums up his entire philosophy. He said, "There is one and only one social responsibility of business, to use its resources and engage in activities designed to increase its profits." So what's he saying? He's saying that a company's job isn't to fix society's problems. Its one and only job is to make money for the people who own it. That idea became the absolute foundation of neoconservative economics.
So what does that actually look like in terms of policy? Well, it means pushing back against big government programs. We're talking about things like cutting taxes whenever you can, shrinking government spending on things like public education or healthcare, selling off state-owned industries to private companies, and challenging the power of labor unions. It's basically a modern version of that old laissez-faire or hands-off approach to the economy.
Okay, so we've got our two pillars, an aggressive foreign policy and free market economics. For a long time, these were mostly ideas talked about by thinkers and writers. But then came the early 2000s, and suddenly these ideas went from the textbook right into the White House.
And the event that changed everything was September 11th, 2001.
The 9/11 attacks created this intense moment of national crisis and fear, and in that moment, those neoconservative ideas about using American military power to go out and reshape the world, well, they suddenly seemed very powerful and very persuasive to the people in charge.
This led directly to something called the Bush Doctrine. And you can think of this as the ultimate example of neoconservative foreign policy in action. Basically, it said that the United States had the right to fight preemptive wars. What's that? It means attacking a country before it attacks you, to stop it from maybe becoming a threat in the future. This idea was the main justification for the invasion of Iraq in 2003.
Okay, let's wrap this up with the big takeaways, the stuff you absolutely need to remember. First, neoconservatism started with thinkers on the left who broke away during the 1960s. Second, it's built on those two main pillars, a really aggressive, interventionist foreign policy and a free market, anti-government approach to economics. And third, its biggest moment in the spotlight, its peak influence, was for sure during the George W. Bush administration, right after 9/11.
All right, before we go, let's do a super quick check for understanding. Just 2 questions to make sure we're all on the same page.
First up, where on the political spectrum did the original neoconservatives begin their journey? Think about it. Yep, if you said the political left, you nailed it. Awesome.
And last question, number 2. Remember that meme? What's the central tension or contradiction in neoconservative beliefs that it showed? Right, it's that push and pull between wanting a small, hands-off government at home, but a huge, powerful government acting all over the world. You guys got it. Excellent job today, and thanks so much for digging into this with me.